Today on Fear and Greed, good news on both the retail and building fronts. Northern Star bids $5 billion for the country's best undeveloped gold miner, and no end in sight for the Woolworths warehouse workers who aren't stocking shelves. Plus, plenty going on in markets, and police thwart the largest ever cocaine importation into Australia. Welcome to Fear and Greed, daily business news for people who make their own decisions. It is Tuesday, the 3rd of December 2024. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, the main story this morning, it's a big week for the economy with economic growth figures out tomorrow. But ahead of them, there's been figures showing a jump in retail spending, a jump in building approvals, but a drop in corporate profits.
Something for everyone. Retail sales were stronger than expected last month, in part driven by early Black Friday promotions. That helped, in particular, electronic and recreational goods sales. What we're seeing in retail in Australia, and this might reflect the cost of living crisis somewhat, is that there are big jumps in revenue when there's a sales event. That happened again last month. But when there's not a big event, not a big sales event, it seems to be weak. Makes it very difficult for the statistician to work out what's going on. There is plenty of population growth pushing through. That also helps retail sales, obviously. There's also been tax cuts this year, consumer sentiments picking up, as is household disposable income, reflecting falling inflation. On the building side of the economy, approvals jumped for the second successive month in October. Now, these numbers bounce around a lot. Last month, there was a big rise in apartments, 24%. Detached housing building approvals actually went backwards by about 5%. But overall, building approvals are now running about 178,000 dwellings per month. That is well and truly off the low of about 160,000 dwellings per month, way behind the government's run rate. It wants sort of 250, 260,000 per month, but at least we're off the bottom. That's good news. Finally, corporate profit figures for the September quarter were released yesterday by the Bureau of Statistics. They fell 4.6%, much worse than expected. That'll feed into tomorrow's economic growth figures. As I said, basically, Michael, something for everyone yesterday in the world of economics.
It feels like you have pretty much just exploded with economic data there so far, Sean.
Yes.
Can you explain what it means? What does it mean for the economy? What does it mean for inflation? And, I'm going to ask this, what's it mean for interest rates?
Okay, so increasing retail sales and building approvals at face value probably increase inflationary pressure. Having said that, most of the data recently suggests that the oomph, that's the technical economic term, the oomph has come out of underlying inflation, though perhaps not enough to get it back below 3%. The economic growth figures tomorrow are forecast to pick up to about 0.5% for the quarter. That's not particularly inflationary. I mean, multiply that by 4, you get a 2% growth rate that we're running at. That isn't particularly inflationary, but just these retail sales figures, they're a bit uncomfortable if you're really hoping to get inflation back down. I think the bottom line, as we've been saying for a few weeks now, rates won't fall until the middle of next year at the earliest.
It feels like the more I learn from you doing this show, the more it sounds like economics is full of exceptions and things, because as soon as you say to me, kind of, this is what should be happening based on the numbers, and 9 times out of 10, you follow that up with, having said that,
yes,
and all of a sudden, Michael, there is something that flips it all on its head.
Ah, yes. That's the beautiful thing about economics. You're never right and you're never wrong. Well, you're never 100% right. You're never 100% wrong. How about that?
Okay, I like that. Yeah. Now, Sean, moving on from economics now, Australia's biggest gold miner, Northern Star, will buy smaller rival De Grey Mining for $5 billion, which is one of the highest prices ever paid for an undeveloped project.
Gold prices have been trading at or near record levels for a couple of months. That's pretty much on the back of Donald Trump's ascension. So gold's a really safe place to put your money. In a Trump world with geopolitical uncertainty in South China Sea near us, Middle East, Europe, gold has found many friends. We've also had central banks buying up gold as opposed to US dollars. As a result, gold is trading at record highs. That helps companies like Northern Star, which used to be our second largest gold company until Newcrest was sold to Newmont. It's now our largest gold company. Its share price, until yesterday, was up 25% since early July. So you talk about the Trump trade, gold's gone through the roof. That's helped Northern Star. Now, yesterday it ended down 5.6%. But still, it is a lot higher than where it was. That gives it currency to buy. It has done a deal to buy De Grey, which owns the Hemi mine in Western Australia's Pilbara region. It's considered the country's best undeveloped gold projects. Apparently, gold project, Michael, singular. Apparently, it's got 11 million ounces of gold. Now, that'll take decades to get out of the ground. It needs $1.3 billion to construct a mine to get it going. The hope is that happens in about 2027. De Grey shareholders will get Northern Star stock. The bid itself is about 37% higher than De Grey's last closing price. The De Grey board has unanimously recommended shareholders vote for the bid, and its share price jumped 29% yesterday. An interesting player in all this is Gold Road Resources. It owns 17% of De Grey, one of the biggest shareholders, obviously, in that company. It itself is a gold miner, obviously. What it decides is still a bit of the smoky in all this. It could come on and say, yep, fine. It could make a bid. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? Or it could just wait out and hope for a higher share offer. Anyway, the upshot of all that is that De Grey shares went through the roof yesterday. Agreed deal with Northern Star. Let's see what happens next.
Good day then for a couple of gold miners. How about the rest of the market? How did the comprehensive local bourse go? I'm asking you to do a lot now. Summarise every single share that trades on the ASX, please, Sean.
Right, no problems. Pretty quiet day, Michael. Leave it at that.
There we go. Summarised. Well done.
The S&P ASX 200 closed up slightly, 0.1% to 8,445 points. Big miners, retail stocks were higher. Banks were mixed. Outperformers among large caps, WiseTech Global and Wesfarmers, but they are only up sort of a bit over 1%. Goodman Group was an underperformer across the market. You asked me for the across the market. I was just talking the large caps. Tech stocks and consumer discretionary businesses did best. Healthcare did worst. In corporate news, Telstra said it had acquired a Boost Mobile for an undisclosed sum. And fund manager Net Wealth said its funds under management has reached $100 billion. Congratulations to Net Wealth. It's been a stock that has been flying up about 90% this year. Now, having said that, I'm saying it again, having said that, its share price is up 90% this year, though it was sold off nearly 5% yesterday.
Okay. Sean, we talked about the big gold deal. There's a few deals around at the moment. Interesting timing for this interview that we've got coming up after the show. You're speaking with Sandy Mack, who is the head of corporate at Cause Chambers Westgarth.
We talk all about M&A in the local market, why there's been a pickup. Well, the fact that there has been a pickup, the fact that it's been at the sort of lower end of the market, some of the cheaper organisations, and whether it's been international or local bidders, the role of superannuation funds. Super funds have had such an incredible place in our market over the last 5 years or so. Sandy says it's still there, definitely, but they're just not quite as active as perhaps some of the overseas buyers at the moment. It's a great chat.
Yeah, it is. It is coming up after the show. We have got a lot still to cover, Sean. We are talking about the Woolworths strikes, a $271 million settlement with Uber, US President Joe Biden, somewhat controversial decision. So much to get through. We'll be back in a moment with the rest of the day's business news. Sean, there is still no end to the strike by Woolworths warehouse workers who walked off the job 2 weeks ago. God, there's a lot of W's in that sentence.
Isn't that alliteration at its finest?
Oh, goodness. Woolworths warehouse workers walking off the job 2 weeks ago, and it affected 4 distribution centres, which are big operations, these things.
1,500 workers. They basically want improvements in safety, pay and equity. They want an immediate pay increase of more than 25%. And then 15% in years 2 and 3. They're also upset about the retailer's new performance management system, saying it's unreasonable pressure for them to hit certain productivity targets. I think that seems to be the pointy end of this debate. What it has meant is that shelves in Woolies have been understocked. Not necessarily out of stock, but definitely understocked. 3 of the centres are in Victoria and 1 in New South Wales. So the southern state has been hit hardest. I don't know whether you've noticed it, but I regularly shop at Woolies and there are certain items which just aren't available. In fact, I'll go further. My favourite tonic for the gin and tonic on the weekend, all sorts of trouble. Went into Woolies to buy it and Jackie and I are a bit of a gin and tonic kind of people when you don't want to have a
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah.
And I mean, gin and tonic isn't really a drink. It's just like end of the day stuff.
Yeah.
So,
So it doesn't count.
Yeah, it
so
doesn't
if
count.
you can still go to your doctor and say, no, I only have one drink on weekends, just you don't count the gin and tonics through the week.
That's right. Yeah. So it wasn't stocked. There you go.
Which one was it, just out of interest?
Oh, I'm going to say it starts with an E. It's not Edel, flour, Edel.
I
Don't know. It's
All
very
right.
good.
Okay. We will.
It's, I mean, a very important time for Woolies, of course, because did you know that November and December, about 20% of supermarket sales occur in November and December. And so what a shocking time for warehouse workers to be on strike for Woolies, that is.
Oh, is it the Fever Tree elderflower tonic?
Yes, that's it. The Fever Tree elderflower.
Fever Tree is great. I've not tried the elderflower. Okay.
Ah,
There we go. We digress.
We do.
Not too far, Sean, because we're going to stay in the world of supermarkets. We need to talk about Metcash, which is the wholesalers to the IGA supermarkets, has struggled to grow earnings in the past 6 months, even on higher revenue.
Its half-year result to the end of October was better than expected. Its share price rose 2.4%, but it still wasn't great. The group made a profit of $142 million, though it did cut its interim dividend. CEO Doug Jones said that the IGA stores are holding market share. That's as shoppers look beyond Coles and Woolies. Metcash's portfolios include IGA, Foodland and Ritchie's, as well as Mitre 10 and Total Tools in the hardware area. They also have some liquor stores. The supermarkets have actually held up pretty well. The hardware stores have suffered, though. Sales in those are down nearly 6%.
A record number of Australians, Sean, are struggling to pay their energy bills, according to the market regulator.
Not good news. The Australian Energy Regulator said 1.9% of customers are now on hardship payment plans, up from 1.4%. The average cost of debt, though, is lower than it was 12 months earlier. That's thanks to the government's $300 rebate introduced on 1 July. The regulator also said more people entering hardship payments are doing it earlier. That's a good thing.
Yeah, that is good. Now, I mentioned Uber earlier. More than 8,000 taxi and hire car drivers are set to claim a slice of a $271 million settlement with Uber, obviously the rideshare group.
The Victorian Supreme Court approved a class action settlement. Now, Morris Blackburn will take $38 million of that $271 million. Litigation funder Harbour will take $81 million of the $271 million. That leaves about $132 million for the drivers. The original case alleged the introduction of Uber into the Australian transport landscape in 2018 caused significant disruption to taxi and car hire industries, according to a report in The Australian. The drivers claimed that they suffered loss and damage by an alleged conspiracy by unlawful means by the Uber companies. In the end, the drivers accepted the payout yesterday. Not everyone was happy with it, but they did take it. It's the fifth largest class action recovery in Australian history.
Investment group GQG Partners share price tumbled 14% yesterday as questions continue about its investment in the Indian conglomerate Adani.
Yeah, so the immediate reason for the sell down was UBS downgrading the stock to neutral to cut its price target. GQG is an investment management company. It sort of actively invests in stocks. It's had a great run, doubling in price from late last year to early July, star of the market, that type of stuff. Then Adani founder, Gautam Adani, was indicted by US prosecutors for an alleged $250 million bribery scheme. According to media reports, GQG had a $3 billion bet on Adani. The Adani indictment sent GQG's shares tumbling. They've now lost about 25% in less than a month.
Yeah, that's huge. Now, Sean, Sydney Harbour's Luna Park is back in local hands after pub and hotel company Oscars Group bought it off Canadian giant Brookfield.
Apparently, the plan is to have a series of new harbourside restaurants and bars. Brookfield bought Luna Park from Multiplex back in 2007, then put it up for sale in June this year. The price wasn't disclosed, but it's expected to be that $50, $60, $70 million mark. Doesn't sound like much for Luna Park, does it? The problem with Luna Park is that under New South Wales law, the site must remain an amusement facility. So you can't knock it down and build buildings. You've just got to have those stupid, noisy rides. You need rides, but you can probably do eateries and conference facilities and stuff like that.
Could you sound like you hate fun more? It's like, oh gosh, not the carousel. Ooh, dang it. Anyway, go on.
Oscar's group beat off others, including Warner Brothers Movie World and Dreamworld.
Sean, the largest attempted importation of cocaine in Australia's history has been thwarted by police, who have charged more than a dozen people over the billion-dollar haul. This thing was huge.
Yeah, I mean, not something we'd normally cover. It's just that this is so massive, you sort of have to mention it. Australian Federal Police charged 11 men and 2 juveniles with conspiring to import 2.34 tonnes of cocaine into the country by sea, according to AAP. It's alleged the men and crew of a vessel attempted to import the drugs into Queensland, with multiple groups planning to collect the cocaine on shore. The men were arrested on Saturday following a collaborative effort by the AFP and Queensland Police investigating a transnational organised crime syndicate. This amount of cocaine, Michael, allegedly attempted to be imported, weighs the same as a Ford Raptor ute.
Is that a new unit of measurement?
I think so. I think it's a metric unit, the Ford Raptor ute.
It's also the size of a pretty decent-sized hippo.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, like, these are the different kind of units of measurement that we can use now. A Ford Raptor, a hippopotamus.
Yeah.
Like, whatever you understand, whatever makes more sense to you. If not a car person, you might not really know what a Ford Raptor is.
No, you'd be more in the hippo category.
Yeah, indeed. Anyway, now we are certainly digressing. Can we talk about international news?
We can.
And Joe Biden.
Yes.
It stirred up a bit of controversy in the last day or so. The outgoing US president has pardoned his son, Hunter, for federal felony gun and tax convictions. The thing is that to do so, he's actually reversed previous promises to not use his powers to benefit his family.
In July, wasn't it? He said very, very forcefully that he wouldn't intervene because this was justice and justice had to be done. No more. I mean, it does mean Hunter Biden will stay out of jail now. Hunter Biden was convicted in 2 cases, one in California and one in Delaware. He is awaiting his punishment, which will never be handed down. Now, of course, it's under the extraordinary powers of the president. He can pardon pretty much anyone, including his son. The whole Hunter Biden story, I don't know what to think about it because I actually feel sorry for the guy. I mean, Joe Biden has stood by his son very publicly as Hunter fell into drug addiction. He's turned his life around. Political rivals, though, ever since Biden took the presidency, have been all over Hunter. And I mean, Joe Biden's argument is that the charges of political Hunter were singled out, therefore he's going to pardon him. Very difficult. I mean, the poor bloke, it's his son, and I would hate to be in that position.
Oh, yeah. You do wonder what Donald Trump is going to make of all of this, though, especially what kind of precedent does this set now? We shall wait and see what happens post-January. Now, finally, Sean, in international markets, there is a big OPEC Plus meeting later in the week.
Will they cut production or won't they? Everyone's wondering. Oil's treading water a bit ahead of that. Brent is around $72 a barrel. Gold's back above $2,600 an ounce. Copper prices, which are considered a bellwether for the global economy, they've stabilised. They lost about 20% in the past couple of months. So in the last week or so, it looks like they've stabilised a bit. Iron ore staying above $100 a tonne, and the Aussie dollar is trading around 65 US cents.
It would be particularly easy for oil to tread water, wouldn't it? Because
I didn't even pick that up. Yes.
Because obviously the relative density and all of that, it kind of just sits on top,
right? On top.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Anyway, just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you.
Up next, Fear and Greed Daily interview, a great one, particularly considering we've been talking about deals today. Sandy Mack, Head of Corporate at Cause Chambers Westgarth, all about M&A activity. It's coming up in the Fear and Greed playlist on your podcast platform or at fearandgreed.com.au, which is where you can sign up for our newsletter out tomorrow. And at midday today, there's a new episode of Ask Fear and Greed where we answer listener questions. Great one for we are going to stump you today, Sean.
Are you?
Yes. It's going to be great fun. Anyway, it's Tuesday, the 3rd of December, 2024. Make sure you're following the podcast and please join us online on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. I'm Michael Thompson and that was Fear and Greed. Have a great day.